Hello everyone and welcome to GLB Productions. Thanks for watching. Now I have with me this evening my very good friend and Christian brother Paul Black. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Welcome.
And Paul is this evening going to learn how to use our new digital console, which is the Soundcraft SI Compact. Now what's interesting is that Paul, you're not new to sound, are you?
No, but then that is many hundreds of years ago.
Right, when dinosaurs roamed the earth,
and we had what was called analog boards.
Correct.
And I'm afraid my history is back in playing both front of house and behind the sound desk.
Right.
But that was only ever on the old analog.
Correct. Now, as you can see from his attire, Paul has definitely moved on from those days. So, would you like to tell the audience just a little bit about your background in sound?
The background in sound was the usual traditional growing up and maybe playing in a band.
Right.
So putting a band together with a few friends, and that was all front of house. But the main interest stemmed at back of house because I was no good front of house.
Okay.
So it was just a noise. So I then moved back, and from behind the sound desk was with bands and DJing and various other forms of sound amplification. All of it was with the analog level.
Correct.
So it was using a standard mixing desk, 16 or 32 channel,
right,
for a rock band or a DJ set. The front of house sound would have been straight through through amplifiers using either Crown or Sound Audio or various others, and through an EXO sound system. So it wasn't unreasonable equipment that I'm familiar with.
Right.
But the technology, it was a couple of decades ago.
Correct. Yes, and things have changed somewhat in the sound industry. Loudspeakers still look like loudspeakers, but mixers in particular have changed beyond our wildest dreams.
Well, this is what's interesting. Having worked here up until about 2 to 3 years ago on the analog board, yes, I would say from what I hear about this one that it was quite restricted. Of course, I didn't feel so at the time because that's just how it was. It seemed very normal, and it seemed as if technology hadn't moved that much in 2 decades. But seeing this, I'm very keen for you to show me about it.
Great. All right. Let's get started.
Good.
Okay, so here we are looking at our mixer. This is a Soundcraft SI Compact, as you can see here. It's replaced the older Soundcraft Spirit Live 4.2 that used to be here. So, Paul, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you an overview of the mixer, and I'll tell you a little bit about each component, and then we'll look at one of the channels, and then you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. And if at any point you're not sure, just stop me and ask. All right. So you remember on the old mixer, you had one set of controls for each channel, yes?
Correct, yes.
So every channel had its own gain, it had its own EQ, it had its own aux send, so on and so on.
Yes.
Now, on this mixer, it being a digital mixer, you have one set of controls which are used for every channel. And that's the first thing that you have to get your head around when you're dealing with this sort of thing.
So you need to be sure that you don't confuse the channels.
Exactly, that's right. And the way that you do that is, if you remember an analog mixer, usually each channel had a number of buttons down here, and an analog mixer would have a mute. In this case, we have an on button, right? It just works the other way around. The analog mixer would have a pre-fade listen or solo. Now on this mixer, you have one additional control, which is SEL. Now, can you think what that's short for?
Well, as we're not in a prison, it's probably select.
Exactly, that's right. So basically, what happens when you press this is that you're telling the mixer, I now want this set of controls to apply to this channel and only this channel.
Can I just make sure I've got that?
Yes, certainly.
So the mute is now on.
That's right.
The pre-fade is now on.
That's correct.
And if I want to now adjust any of the controls for this channel only, I've selected it.
That's right.
So now all of this is at my will, my beck and call for that channel.
Absolutely correct.
Got it.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what I think we should do is we should take a look, have an overview of this section here, which I think you'll find becomes familiar very quickly. So shall we look at that first?
It could become familiar, but looking at it just quickly like this, it seems that there are a lot more options and a lot more variables than there were on the old analog.
Right, okay.
So there'll be a few new ones for me. So
Correct.
Could we go through them slowly, please?
Okay, right, so let's do that. All right, so now Paul, beginning from the left side and working across, you can see that there's different color-coded zones that we use, and it's mainly just to help you tell the different sections of this apart.
Well, I'm seeing a blue. I am colourblind.
Oh,
by
right.
the way. I'm red-green colourblind.
Okay.
So this could be confusing.
Okay.
I can't be an astronaut.
Yeah, indeed.
So we've got blue, green, and red.
That's
and this
right.
one here is also a green, is it?
It is indeed, that's right, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And you'll see that very helpfully the color of the light actually matches the color of the surround.
Yes.
Yeah. So the signal flows from left to right, and you can see that each of the sections are labeled. So you have an in section,
Yep.
you have a gate section,
Yep.
a compressor section,
Yep.
an equalizer section,
Yep.
and finally you have an output section. All right. So if in case you ever get lost, just remember the signal flows from left to right as you would write English. Okay. So beginning with and you stop me at any time if you're not sure about any of this. So working from the left side, you have an input meter. Now this shows you the signal that's coming into the console.
Yep.
And obviously this signal is controlled by the gain or trim control.
Yes.
And this, because it's a Soundcraft, the gain is set very much as you would on the old analog mixer. So if the gain was about 2 o'clock on the old board, it's about 2 o'clock here.
Very
right?
good.
Now, the other difference that you'll notice almost immediately is that this is not a physical knob. All right? If I keep turning this, it just spins around and around and around. So the fancy word for this is encoder.
That's confusing.
Yes.
But let's just try it.
That's right. So, and you'll see that
Got it.
that's
Okay. A lot of this you need to feel it as well.
That's right. Yeah, and you'll
Yeah.
see that the faster you turn it, the faster the lights move, and the slower you turn it. So it's a little bit like a computer mouse in that
Yep.
sense. Okay. So again, this is your gain or trim, right? And below that you have your high pass filter. Now if you remember, on the old mixer you had a fixed high pass filter. Now on this one we've gone one better, and you actually have a variable high pass filter.
Will I ever need that?
Well, we find that it's very useful because remember that sometimes, for example, say you want to high pass a male voice, right? You might set your high pass filter at 100 hertz. But then say you want to high pass a hi-hat or a cymbal, you might set it way up, maybe around 300 or 400.
Okay, it's given me extra flexibility.
Exactly,
but
that's
I need
right.
to get comfortable with
Yes.
the basics first before I play with that.
There
Okay,
you go.
That's nice.
That's right. So, if in doubt, the default setting is around about 100, 120. Yeah.
What was the previous analog default setting?
It was 100.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. And you probably noticed this already, but anytime I touch or adjust the knob, you get a specific readout over here of the exact number that you're setting it to.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's a legend here, but it's rather small and it can be hard to see.
If I put my glasses on, I can see it.
Very good. Excellent. Yeah. So, obviously
But
we...
I like that for the blind.
Yeah, that's right. Great. So far we've covered gain and trim and
Yep.
high pass filter. Now the other thing that you need to remember is many of the features on this mixer need to be enabled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's enabled now.
Exactly.
Now, if I take it out,
Yes,
then I'm still getting a reading.
that's right. But it's not doing anything to the sound.
Okay, I
That's-
need to know, because I'm sure a few people get tripped up with
Oh,
that.
most definitely.
We all
yeah.
think we're adjusting it,
Yes.
and it's not making a difference.
That's right.
It's not enabled.
That's right. Now
Enable before.
That's right. Now I need to stress that this enables only the high pass filter. The gain and trim has no such control. So this is always active, And yeah, so
Yes.
so it says HPF. This
Yeah,
controls only
just
the
the
H.
high button.
That's right. Yeah.
Very good.
Now working from the top down, we've covered the meters.
Yep.
We have phantom power on and
Yes.
off, which you'll recognize.
Yep.
This one actually lights up to tell you that it's on, right? So we have off and we have on.
Yep.
And you remember the rule that you obviously you plug stuff in before you switch this on, not
Yes.
afterwards, otherwise you get a big bang. And here you have a phase reverse switch. Now what this does is it flips the polarity of the signal. So if something is going plus minus, it now goes minus plus.
And can you give me an example of when I might use it? Because I don't recall using it on the
Right.
analog or even having it.
Exactly. Now the classic case in which you use something like this is where you have both top and bottom mics on a snare drum.
Yes.
So your top mic would be no reverse polarity.
Yep.
Your bottom microphone would be reverse polarity, because if you think about it, if you didn't, you'd cancel out the sound that you were
Yes.
getting. That's right. But this is used rarely in St. George's.
And I think here we won't use it so often.
Not very often.
We
yeah.
don't mic up the drum kit to that extent,
Yes.
do we?
That well, I mean, not yet. Yes. Maybe when Jesus comes back we will, but until then we're all right. So, are you all right so far with this
Okay,
blue section?
Well, I'll say yes.
Yes, all right.
But the proof of the pudding
absolutely.
is in the mix.
Of course,
So
that's right.
let's,
Okay, so you probably remember that we used to have up here a blue unit with a lot of knobs.
I think it's over there now.
Ah,
Redundant.
That's
but-
right, correct. So we have what we call a gate and we have a compressor. Now, the gate basically is a system which turns a signal off when the signal drops below a certain threshold.
Yes. And we can
Yeah.
set that threshold.
That's right, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what I suggest that we do is I'm only going to tell you two controls on this to simplify it, because you can see that there's a lot of knobs, and I'm just going to explain the bottom two to you for now. All right?
Yeah.
So, as you know, I have a microphone plugged into this channel here.
Yes.
Right? So if you could just hand me the microphone over there. Sorry, viewers. Okay. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to switch off the left-right so that it's still passing through here. Now, if I just pan down a little bit so that the viewers can see, there we go. Okay. Now, you can see a couple of things. First of all, you can see that this is lighting up, yes? And so is this.
Yes.
So you have two places where you can see signal coming into the mixer.
Yes.
All right? Now, the other thing that you can see is that because the light on the gate is off, no gating is happening. Now, if I enable the gate, you can see that we have three lights up here.
Yes.
We have shut, which means no signal gets through. Hold, which means that the gate is closing but not fully closed. And open.
Now, we can adjust the shut,
That's
the cut off,
correct.
presumably with this.
That's right, yeah.
Because if we want to adjust the point at which it will cut off
That's
the
right.
signal, we'll adjust this. So
That's
if we want
right.
it at a lower point,
Yeah, so if I just keep talking and if you turn that knob clockwise, what you're doing is you're making the gate tighter and tighter. So check 1 2, check 1 2, check 1 2, and eventually you can see, you're getting to a point now, eventually it will not open at all.
Yeah.
So there you go. Right. So if you just think righty tighty, lefty loosey, it's a little bit like that. So the more right you turn, the tighter the gate gets.
yes, each
Yeah.
to his own analogies.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the one that you'll be using most of the time. The other thing, which is depth, it tells you by how many decibels the signal is reduced. So sometimes you want the signal to be reduced by a lot. Other times you only want it to be reduced by a little bit. Now this is something that the old gate did not have.
Yes.
But if in doubt, you just want to adjust the threshold here.
That's fine. But
Yeah.
from what I remember,
Uh-huh.
I very rarely adjusted it anyway.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And again, in St. George's, the gate is we're mainly using it to control things like the kick drum, the snare drum, and a little bit on the lectern mic if it's trying to feedback a lot, that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's a good basic overview of this. Shall we move on to the... All right. Okay. Now, can you tell me what you remember or know about compressors?
That was it.
Okay. Excellent. So I see you're well versed in compressors. No. All right. Now, what a compressor does is it's a little bit like having a sound engineer inside, and you tell him when the signal in this channel goes over a certain level, I want you to start reducing it. So it's basically when the signal goes over a certain level, it begins to be reduced. And if you look here, you can see that when this lights up, it means the signal's being reduced. Basically, it controls the dynamic range.
It's compressing it.
Yes, that's right. So it makes loud signals softer. That's the simplest way of putting it.
So when we have something that is overriding everything else,
correct, yeah,
then we can adjust it.
That's right.
And we can adjust that by each channel.
Exactly.
To get a smoother mix.
That's
so
right.
if something is overly dominant,
correct,
we can reduce it in the compression.
That's right, yeah.
Right.
And once again, with compression, you have just two knobs that you have to be really familiar with. The first one is threshold, which is when does the compression kick in.
Yes.
So if you have a very low threshold, you'll see that it kicks in almost immediately.
Yes.
If you have a high threshold, you'll see it doesn't kick in at all. And if you have a medium threshold, it kicks in but only a little bit.
And the second, am I right in guessing it could be the ratio? So that we want to know the amount or the percentage.
Yeah, that's exactly
of
correct.
The compression that we give it.
That's right. Great. So that's gate and compression.
Yes.
Okay. So shall we move on to the EQ section?
Yes, and that might be something that I'm a little more familiar
Good.
with.
All right. Now, at this point, I'm going to just direct your attention over to the touch screen. All right.
Right.
Now, this screen, as you can see, it has a number of icons on it. The one that you have to remember at this point is the one that's labeled EQ. So why don't you go ahead and press that? There you go. Right? Now you can see that the screen displays an EQ curve. All right?
Yes.
And this EQ curve mirrors whatever channel is selected. All right?
I see it. So I see it giving me the EQ curve for each of those as we went through.
That's right.
The selection process.
Yeah.
And these ones have been preset for a former performance.
That's right.
Let's go back to this one.
Correct.
Right.
Now, with this EQ, if you recall with the old mixer, you had 4 bands, right? You had a high mid, a low mid, and a low.
That's right. And we just had that set up for each channel.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, the other thing that you probably remember is that each of the mid channels had a selectable frequency.
Yes.
Right? So if I were to demonstrate that, for example, with the low mid channel, say I boost this, right? Now I'm going to just narrow this so that the illustration is clear. I can actually choose what frequency I'm boosting or what frequency I'm cutting.
Okay, so that's a lot more flexibility than we had before.
Yeah, that's right. Well, with the old one, we could choose the frequency, but what we could not choose is what's called the bandwidth.
Yeah.
As you can see here, we've got a third knob and it's labeled Q. Now this is not the James Bond Q. This refers to the width of the filter. So do you want a really wide cut or do you want a really narrow cut? Yep. Now most of the time I leave this at 1, which means it's 1 octave total bandwidth.
Yep.
And then I just fool around with frequency and the low and the high mids. Yeah. So the best way to experience this really is just to, turn things on, check 1, 2, and have a little play there, all right? So what I suggest we do is if I talk into the microphone and you can adjust the controls a little bit to get a feeling for what they're doing. So I'll just
Sing.
well, yes. No, I was thinking more inane conversation. So yes. So check 1, 2. So remember that your this channel is selected. That's right, and you're adjusting the EQ knobs to suit.
So we're working on this channel.
That's correct.
We have on because we've muted it.
That's right. Actually, what we've done is we've switched it on. Yes, that's correct. Yep.
We have our main volume control. Now we're going to adjust the high pass filter,
There you go,
which
yes.
is the signal coming in to the board.
That's
we
right.
want to adjust the high pass to cut it out.
Right. So check 1, 2. As you go up, you should hear my voice begin to get less and less bassy. So as you can hear, at that point, I'm beginning to sound like I am missing some bodily parts. Correct? Yes.
We're about 12 now.
Indeed. Right. So. And then as you go the other direction, you can hear the bass naturally come back in. Correct. So obviously, when it's all the way down, it's still active, but at a very low frequency.
Now we've high passed you at 100, and we're going to adjust your gain and your trim now.
Correct. Now, yes. So again, as you dial back, you will find now. I'm just gonna so the folks can see. As you dial back, you can see your gain is now 0 coming up. Check it.
And we can hear that.
That's right. So, oops. Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Check 1, 2, 3, 4,
And
5, 6.
now we can hear it because
right.
what we've done is we've just allowed more coming into the board.
Exactly.
So we're adjusting more into the board, and that's really where it all starts.
That's right.
That's the start of the signal that's coming in.
That's right. And obviously, the adjustment of this is very important because if you get it too loud, you'll distort, and if it's not enough gain, you can't be heard.
Now we're using a voice microphone, our good old trusty SM58
That's right.
or similar, and we're using your voice.
That's
And
right.
Is it because your larynx is only in mono, or because the microphone is only in mono, that we're only getting an input signal on the left channel?
It's because this is actually a mono channel. So there is only a single input on the back of this for this particular channel, and it's good that you pointed that out because this mixer has both stereo and mono channels. Most of them, of course, are mono, and that's the reason why we have that.
And it's not because we have a faulty board or you have a faulty larynx.
Not yet anyway. That's right. Exactly correct. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So we've set our high pass filter now. I'm happy with that because
Good.
I was happy with your deep and sexy voice
Very
that we
good.
could hear. I was
Okay.
happy with the level of the input
Yes.
that was coming in. Now I want to move over,
All right.
and I'm going to check the gate.
Okay. So.
At what point we're going to cut you out.
Okay. So let's see what
I'm going
happens
to
here.
enable the gate.
Very good. Check 1, 2,
we are.
3, 4,
And now
5,
the
6.
threshold.
Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Check 1,
So
2.
what I was noticing there was as I increased the threshold,
That's
the
right.
gate was active more often
That's
until
correct.
it came to a point where it was active the whole time.
That's right.
And therefore,
Yeah.
you were being cut out.
Exactly.
And now if I want to I will rarely use the depth.
Yes, that's
I will
right.
rarely use this.
Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Check. So when it's very shallow like this, you'll find that even when the gate is shut, most of the sound still makes it through. And this allows you to fine-tune the relationship between the gate and the threshold.
In fact, that was quite a good example.
Right.
While you were talking there, that we flatten the depth
That's
and
right.
increase the threshold.
Exactly. So check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's right. So basically, with a shallow depth, the difference between closed and open is much less perceptible. And sometimes you want that, because you just want to reduce the level enough such that it doesn't feed back, but you still want some ambient noise to come through.
When would that be? Give me an example.
A good example of that would be when you're recording the sermon and you don't want the background noise to drop out completely when the person speaking stops, but you want the mic level to drop enough such that it doesn't feed back.
Great.
Yeah. So basically when he stops, the level just goes down maybe 3 or 6 dB, and it's enough to stop it feeding back, but it still sounds natural on the recording.
That's very useful.
Yeah, very
to have
useful.
here
Very.
at your fingertips.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
If we remember we've got it.
Well, you know, it's all part of remembering, isn't it? Yes.
Now let's move over if we can. Now I'm actually at this stage, I'm not using these 4 here.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
I'm not familiar with them.
Yeah.
I won't use. Can we move on to the compressor?
Yes, let's have a look and see.
Right.
Right. So again, check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now you have a very high threshold, and you'll find that the compressor's not kicking in at all. So what you want to do is you want to bring it down to the point where it begins, and there, as you can see by the lights lighting up, if you just move your hand a second, you can see that now I'm basically in the threshold all the time. So anything I say is being compressed.
And I can increase the amount it's being compressed just by increasing the ratio. So
That's
if I do
right.
that, we'll virtually hear nothing of you at all.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
if I lower the threshold,
Right.
so most of what you say is compressed, and I increase the amount you're being compressed,
That's right.
we'll get virtually nothing.
Exactly.
It's just mathematical.
That's right. So check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, there. So you can see that.
Let's do it.
All right. So and again, so right. Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Check
So
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
With a lower threshold and with a much lower compression, we should get virtually everything.
That's
There'll be
correct.
virtually no compression.
That's right. All right. So now we arrive at the equalizer. So remember, on this display, press menu. All right. I'm sorry. If I stop talking for a second.
Now, I'm going to press menu because that's going to bring me back so that I can see my EQ curve on the screen.
What you need to do is you need to press menu
And select the EQ.
That's
'cause
correct,
I'm
yes.
going back to my menu. So
Yeah.
I press menu.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah. So the reason that it's
Why do I not get?
the reason it's being troublesome is that some other control has been pressed. So we'll just wait a little while there. Again, this mixer can sometimes do funny things. Okay, so what I've done is it was displaying this, and I've just pressed anywhere on the screen to dismiss that. All right.
Right.
So now you press EQ, and that will show you the EQ
That will
curve.
bring us back to what we saw before.
That's
which was
correct.
our
Yes. All right. There you
Lovely.
go.
So that's
All
our
right.
curve. Now, one thing just before we do that.
Yes.
Can I just, if I take out the gate and take out the compressor,
Right.
will it be left at those levels? Right.
Yes.
So it will stay at this. If I was to
Absolutely.
disable it to stop me wiping across it.
Oh yes, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. And so all you're doing there is it's an on-off switch for that part of the board.
But the setting that I had has been retained.
Oh yes, it has.
Great.
Yeah, that's right. It's exactly like an analog mixer in the sense that you have one knob for each function, which is a lot easier to remember than some Yamaha boards, for example. Yeah.
Right. So let's go into the EQ. And
Okay.
what I'm looking at here is just to adjust your curve.
That's
now
right.
So if we're saying here we're looking at 1 octave.
Right. Well, actually, what you're looking at here is you're looking at basically the whole of the audio spectrum. So you've got 20, and you've got 20,000 on the left, and each of these lines is 1 decade. So you have basically to 100 to 1 kilohertz and 10 kilohertz.
Yes. Very good.
All right.
Okay.
So check 1, 2, 3, 4. 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 Testing the EQ. This is the low mid control. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Check 1, 2, 3, 4.
And this is the frequency at which it's happening.
That's correct.
This is what I'm adjusting.
Mhm.
Now that's only the low mid.
That's right.
Now it would be the mid high.
That's correct. So you can see again that the curve reflects what you're doing there. That's right. So check 1, 2, 3, 4. Check 1, 2. Yes. Okay. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. 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 There we go. And again, you can see that it's very useful to have this graphical representation of what exactly is going on. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, great.
Actually, it's helpful for those maybe like myself whose ears aren't so in tune or finely tuned to music. Where
that's right.
If I don't have perfect pitch or very far from it, a visual interpretation is very helpful.
There you go. Okay, wonderful. So we've gone through, and obviously, as you say, the proof will be when you actually use it in a service. But we've determined, obviously, and the other thing that I forgot to mention is this knob here, which is very important, because if that is not depressed, you have no EQ at all. So you must remember.
So unlike the gate and the compressor, which remember the setting when they're...
Oh no, this one remembers the setting as well.
But it takes it off.
That's right, yes.
But that's just taken, So if you were to activate it, then you're in.
Correct. So you'll see that, check 1, 2, this is no EQ. You can hear the change in my voice, and this is with the EQ that you've dialed in. So again, it's entirely possible to be madly twisting here and have no effect at all on the sound because your EQ section is off.
And that will also, for me, be because I've selected the wrong channel.
That's right, and that's something that I do all the time. All right, so
you have to make sure you're selecting the channel.
That's right,
for the one that you're actually intending to adjust.
That's right, and this is something that it sort of becomes second nature when you're using a digital board, right? And again, we all make that mistake, and then the horrible feeling is, what channel did I inadvertently adjust while I had the wrong one selected?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.